Fight against ISIL, the U.S. president seeks new war powers from Congress to continue that fight. He's asking for limits on the time and scope of those operations. CCTV correspondent Jessica Stone has more from the White House.
Since the initial coalition strikes against ISIL in September 2014, U.S. President Barack Obama has insisted he had the authority to order military action using the same 2001 authorization to fight al-Qaeda. It was passed shortly after the September 11th attacks. Now, 14 years later, with al-Qaeda in Iraq morphing into the terror group ISIL, the U.S. president wants to put Congress on record. He's asking for military force, but the request, quote, does not authorize the use of U.S. armed forces in enduring offensive ground combat operations.
This resolution repeals the 2002 authorization of force for the invasion of Iraq and limits this new authorization to 3 years. I do not believe America's interests are served by endless war or by remaining on a perpetual war footing.
But after more than a decade of war, some members of the Congress say they don't want future presidents to be able to use this war power authorization for decades to come. Members of the president's own party are calling for even more limits than what he's proposing, wondering what enduring means.
Our members of our caucus have questions, as do I, about what does this language actually mean, because we're seeing it for the first time now.
They're also concerned about language in the president's proposal that allows for ground combat troops in, quote, limited circumstances.
And I do think that in the country there is no appetite for any boots on the ground except in limited circumstances, and that scope is the debate that we will be engaged in.
It's a debate that now begins nearly 5 months into the fight against ISIL. And while many congressional Republicans admit they are likely to give the president this new war power authority, they want it to come along with a clear strategy on how to defeat the Islamic terror group.
I'm not sure that the strategy that's been outlined will accomplish the mission the president says he wants to accomplish. And his point, the president's point, is that he wants to dismantle and destroy ISIS. I haven't seen a strategy yet that I think will accomplish that.
And Mike, it's important to note that this draft legislation still does not confine the fight against ISIL to any specific location, such as Iraq or Syria, and you can expect that to be a big part of the debate coming up.
Jessica, talk to me about flexibility. How much flexibility will this authorization provide? And also, one of the questions everyone seems to have when it comes to this sort of issue is, what about boots on the ground?
Well, on the flexibility question, the president's actually looking for less flexibility when it comes to time, less flexibility when it comes to combat troops than he's previously been operating under. But at the same time, he made very clear and gave a scenario under which he would want to order special forces into Iraq or Syria in the fight against ISIL. For example, if there was intelligence gathered that put a bunch of ISIL operatives in one location and coalition operatives couldn't help with that, couldn't attack them, essentially, he said he would definitely send special forces in, and he wants to be able to do that under any war powers authorization he gets from Congress.
Jessica Stone live.